This video is a continuation of the previous video where I showed you how to create orthographic views using some of the drawing aids in AutoCAD. In this video I want to show you how to use the dimensioning tools to actually dimension your parts correctly and some tips about how to achieve that. Just getting started here, I'm going to kind of spread my views out a little bit. They may be a little close together, so I'm going to use the move tool, and I'm going to move my top view straight up, so I'll make sure that the ortho mode is on, and I'm going to move my right side view straight over, again making sure ortho's on, and I kept everything lined up. Whenever you move the views, just be real particular and be real careful that you keep everything properly lined up. That's one of the biggest things about orthographic projection, is that these views need to be lined up. So the next thing I want to do is probably activate appropriate layer for dimensions. We actually have one in this template called dim. So it's just a good idea to layer your drawing dimensions so that you can turn them on and off as you need to, or it's just good practice in CAD work to use the layers to separate like items. Dimensions are available. There's a few here on the annotation panel on the home ribbon, but all the dimension tools are available on the annotate ribbon and in the dimension panel here. So we have a linear dimension tool. It's one of the most common dimension tools. It works very well given horizontal and vertical dimensions. So I'm going to left click on that. AutoCAD asks me to specify the extension line origin. So I'm going to use my endpoint object snaps, and I'm going to select the two endpoints of the feature that I want to dimension, and I'm going to place that dimension down. Now, proper spacing really adds a lot to making neat drawings. So the first dimension should be about a half an inch away. Whenever you print this drawing out on paper, it should measure about a half an inch away. So I'm going to turn on the grids, and this is a metric drawing, so 0.5 inches in millimeters is 12.7. So I'm going to check the settings of this grid. So I have this grid set at 13 millimeters, which is about a half an inch, so that's close enough. And I can kind of see, each grid is a half an inch, so I've got that just about a half an inch away, which is real nice, perfect. So I'm going to place another linear dimension tool, and again I'm going to use the endpoint object snaps, and I'm going to track from my original one so that I can line these up exactly to one another, like so. So now I'm locating systematically my edges from left to right. So I found this first edge. The next edge is this line, and then this line, which I've already dimensioned, and that line. So the best place I can show the dimension for the length of this line, either in this top view or this front view. In my opinion, the front view better shows the shape of that feature, so that's where I'm going to place that dimension. So I'm going to use my endpoint object snaps, and I'm going to go out to about a half an inch. And there's another tool I want to show you. It's called baseline. So sometimes it's behind the continue, but I'm going to use the baseline tool, and I'm going to go ahead and give the overall length. So I'm finished with that. I'm going to right click 2 times to finish that command. So I found all the length dimensions, and I've done that systematically. So I usually will go all the dimensions lengthwise left to right, and then I'll do all the dimensions height-wise up and down, and then I'll do all the dimensions depth. Okay, so I'm going to do my height dimensions next. So again, I'm going to use the linear dimension tool, and there's an option or a default value here, so I can specify the extension line origins using my endpoint object snaps like I've been doing, or I could right mouse click and get a pick box and pick the line. So whichever way you prefer, that'll help you make your choices. In this case, I'm going to make another dimension like that, and then I'm going to use the baseline again to give me the overall height. So now I've found this first edge, which I could have shown here or here. I felt that it's better shown in the front view. Now this edge, I don't have to dimension the height for that, and the reason for that is that I'm not going to ask the person making this part to make sure that they have this so high. I've asked them that this be 20 wide and it just goes straight up into this slope. So just wherever it goes is where it goes, and I can't ask them any more than that. So we don't need a dimension here, but we have found this edge, and then we found the overall height. So the next thing we need to do is define the depth. So when I pick the dimension tool, I'm going to give this first thickness of 20, and then the next depth line is this line, so I can see it, which is this line here. So I'm going to use the pick box, and again I'm going to use my tracking tools to keep these things nice and lined up, nice and neat looking. And now I have to make a decision on where I want to put my last one, which will be this line. We could do here, and we would cross this extension line. You will find drawings that you have to cross extension lines, but in this case we don't. It's not necessary because we can also put it in the top view. So I pick my baseline tool again, and I don't want it to originate from the right side view, so I'm going to use the option here, select. So I right click to select, and I'm going to pick the upper extension line for this 20, and now I can give the overall depth. So with that last dimension, I've completely defined this part. This part has all the dimensions necessary that someone can take this information and make this part. So hope this helps you, guide you through your dimensions. Focus on spacing and use the baseline tools where appropriate, and place that dimension in the view that best describes the shape of that part. If you have any questions, give me a call or send me an email. Thanks.